All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the June 27, 2022 CalPADS office hours. My name is Paul Higgins. I'm a data analyst at CSIS supporting CalPADS. As we get started, please hover over your name in the participant list and change it to reflect your first name, last name, and ideally the organization you're representing here. After we get through the announcements, I'm going to ask that you please write your questions in the chat box, number them Q1, Q2, Q3, etc., so we can hit all the Q1s and then come back and hit as many of the Q2s and above as we can, given our time restrictions. As we're going through this, if your question revolves around a topic that you've already opened a service desk ticket on, please keep it between you and your agent, so that way we don't confuse matters here on the call by not modifying the ticket to reflect what's being discussed here. Also, if you have a very complex issue, problem, concern that requires a lot of background or is specific to just your LEA, we'll probably ask you to open up a service desk ticket on that as well, just because this isn't going to be the right venue to dig into your issues, out in the open. And on that, I don't think we've gotten any communications in the last week. The 224 flash came out before, and we did discuss it. Angela, what do we have for this week's bugs, etc.?
Thanks, Paul. All right, since we met last Wednesday, we have logged 3 bugs. They are on the screen there in front of you. The date escalated column is 622. Gary, you haven't logged any since 9 a.m. this morning, have you?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So we got a little bit of a late start for our 3 o'clock revision of this document. So it's rendering now. So it says 9 a.m. It should be 3 p.m. shortly. And then we do have a release going in tomorrow, and the list is quite a bit longer than what I shared on Wednesday. Okay, so that's up on my screen. These are the ones expected for tomorrow. And anything I want to say about those? Oh, one of the ones I was hoping for, there's a couple that have been gone back and forth, but the SPED 434 is still outstanding. So that didn't quite make the cut for this round tomorrow. So that's unfortunate. I think it's partially fixed, so you can try to upload it and see if it gets through. But if you get that error, it's probably related to the known defect that we have on that.
The course 464 and 468. Yay.
Finally. Okay, and that's all I have. And back to you, Paul.
All right, thank you. We'll just jump right in on the questions. I see we have Brandy. Did Joe join us? I don't see Joe yet. Starting at the 301 timestamp, Lou writes, Q1, if a student completed the concentrator course for the Ornamental Horticulture Pathway 105 and the capstone course for Floral Design Pathway 105A, would the student be considered a completer for Pathway 105 Ornamental Horticulture or 105A Floral Design?
So the sub-pathways are more for the selection of the appropriate course code. So as long as the pathway is the same, which is 105, yes, they would be considered a completer. So they can complete separate courses within the 105 pathway, even if they're in different sub-pathways, and still be considered a completer.
Perfect, thank you. 301, Mary asks, Q1, I am getting the CRSC 0468 errors on courses with state course code 1000. Aries is extracting them. Should we even be including CRSC records with the state course code 1000 in our uploads? Well, what we're talking about is also on the known issues list, but to your question, should they be included? Well, there. Yes, there's the bug on screen. Thank you very much. You had gone faster than me to the other spot. Up on screen, you can see what classes should be reported for end of year, and courses should be departmentalized for grades 7 through 12. So if you're just doing 1,000 courses, they're not communicating any information. So if they're for grades 7 through 12, they're just going to be ignored if you're extracting them into the system. Let's see. Denise at 302, Q1. How often is the ODS SPRG extract refreshed? How soon can I run the ODS SPRG extract after I post?
Overnight.
Is it the overnight? Okay,
Uh-huh.
okay. Overnight. All right, Mary, I see your Q2. We'll come back to you. Gita at 302, Cert 128 status. And as you can see, it's still on the known issues list under sent to developer, so it will persist for a time.
There's also some other issues with the Cert 128 that I'm investigating right now. I've got several tickets on it, each of them kind of with a different flavor. So I'm working on that one right now.
I have an update on that 6183 that it is included in tomorrow's release. So, but you'll have to, because it's a snapshot, you have to wait till revisions run. So it may, where'd you go, Alex? You jumped. The one,
Sorry.
128.
Thought you said 6183.
She said 83, but I think she meant 53.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that one is included in tomorrow's release, but you'll have to wait for revisions to run, which has been a little bit slow. So it could be Wednesday before you see those fixes.
303, Carol asks, using online maintenance to see my new students already have SSID and realize that the student data doesn't return any matches for the last names with spaces. Is this a known issue that I just missed? I didn't see anything in the known issues dealing with student data lookups.
6182. And there's two tabs on that screen. And so the request SSID is the one that you're talking about that doesn't work if you have the last name, two last names with a space in between. But if you use the student lookup, it's been working. And Alex is showing you what that looks like on the screen. I was able to successfully find students by using the student lookup. So it defaults to student lookup. That one that it defaults to is correct, Alex. Oops, if you go back to that tab. The other tab to the right of that, oh, no, the green, there you go. That request SSID tab is not functioning if the student has two last names.
Thank you for that clarification. Oh, let's see. 303, Betty Lee says Q1 error stats 318. Why is ADA generating independent study days included in total days absent? Please see CALPADS error list.
It should not be included in the total days absent. It should be included in the total expected attendance days. So the non-ADA generating independent study days are included as absences. They do count towards chronic absenteeism, but not the ADA generating independent study days.
Okay. All right, moving on to the 304 timestamp. Colleen, what state course code should we use for a combined grade level class for English? One class is a combo of 9th and 10th grades, and the other is a combo of 11th and 12th grades. Students will complete 4 years of English, but the classes will be offered in a mixed grade level.
So Colleen, the answer to your question is it depends on what kids are getting credit for. So if your 9th graders are getting credit for English 9 and your 10th graders are getting credit for English 10, then those are two sections within the same class. So you would need two state course codes, two different sections within the same class. Same with your 11th and 12th graders. So if they're getting English 11 credit, English 11 credit, English 12 credit, then you would create two sections in that class as well. So, and just know that we know the grade levels of the students based on their enrollment file, right? So what's really important here is which area of content the student is getting credit for within an academic year.
Thank you, Brandy. All right, Carol, I see your follow-up question, and follow-ups are technically Q2, so we're just gonna brush over that real quick.
I think we answered it though. It was use the lookup tab instead of the search or the request SSID.
There we go then. Okay. Lori, 305, there was mention of an issue with full replacement files not behaving as full replacements. On Wednesday, there was a concern that it could be all full replacement files. Has this been narrowed down, or is it a universal?
It's narrowed down to at least STAS, SSRB, and core section. And I just learned, that's just like moments ago, that they actually patched that one to production. And so I haven't verified that it's working myself. So if you are still having a problem, maybe put in a ticket and ask for Angela.
All right, 306, Melissa. Does the list of 200 plus known issues include errors from prior to the conversion? If so, is someone reviewing them and removing anything that is not relevant to the new system?
And it has moldy, oldie stuff on there. And yes, eventually we will get to that. We just have been super, super swamped. So we have not cleaned up that old list yet to verify what's still outstanding and what is obsolete.
All right, Gita, I see your Q2. Kara 308, any updates on when the SPED certification data discrepancies will be implemented?
The same time we implement it for all the other certification data discrepancies. Our communication was targeting the end of the month, and that's what we're trying to do. But that means next Tuesday release. Don't know for sure if we're going to make that, but that's what our target is.
Thank you, Martha. Okay, let's see. Asya at 309, I'm getting a CERT 131 error. However, the students flagged by this error all have been exited out of the current academic year and previous years too. The error states that students haven't exited out of the current academic year. What's the best way to proceed? Well, it might be a timing issue because if you exited them out, your snapshot will need to refresh to reflect that and incorporate the new exits in and eliminate the CERT 131. I'm trying to remember if there's anything specific about the 131 beyond that, but realistically, that's all I can come up with off the top of my head for a quick reason why they persist. I don't see any bugs on it. And if you're still having problems after the new revision, please open up a cert or a service desk ticket so we can take a look at that. Angelina 311 Q1. So a course 1000, should we remove the standard grade level range reference Q1 301, or is this part of a known issue for 5953 on the known issues list?
Well, I guess my question is, are you submitting course code 1000? So, because you really shouldn't be submitting self-contained courses for end of year, and we really only need them for fall 2.
Okay. One question answered with another question. There you go. Fair's fair, right? Fabiola 311. Q1, could we have an update on the availability of the 14.1 report? I was able to successfully submit a student enrollment and STAS data last week. My LEA's data has several revisions since, and the report does not have any data populating it yet.
Yeah, unfortunately, we thought that was fixed last week. What was fixed were prior academic years versions of 14.1, not this year, which is kind of crazy. But anyway, they have a fix for it tomorrow. So please try again after lunchtime tomorrow.
Do they need new revisions, Angela?
Yeah, good question. Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. So if you don't see it after lunch tomorrow, try again in the morning and after you get a new revision.
All right, moving on to Angela 311. Any updates on known issue 6198? It looks like it may be affecting fatal errors CERT 123, missing or invalid SCSC record for CTE completers. So I was hoping the known issue 6198 could be bumped up in severity to high.
Well, that one is high on the back end, so I can do that in problem management. and it is slated for next Tuesday's release. Martha, is this the one you were talking about this just a little bit ago?
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying CERT 123 is possibly an outcome of 6198 not showing all the right data?
Yes. I thought, but I don't know for sure. So you and I were going to go over this some more.
If we're ever out of meetings, yes.
Good luck with that.
So
We didn't know where the data was missing, and you learned today that the data is in the table in the database. It's just not showing up in the online maintenance, and we don't know if it's also then impacting that CERT error.
All right, moving on. We have Lou and Angelina. I see your Q2s. Nancy at 312. If you correct the enrollment start date for a student by exiting with an N470, exit date matching the enrollment date, and then upload a new enrollment record with the uploaded enrollment start date, is it best practice to then delete the N470 record, or does it matter? It shouldn't matter, but for, neatness, why not? If they weren't actually there and it was just a data entry error and the only thing preventing you from getting rid of it initially was that it was the only existing enrollment in the file, yeah, once it's been replaced with the corrected one, feel free to delete it. 312, Kim. Q1, now that we are in the last week of June, any estimate of the day that the data discrepancies will become CERT errors?
Answer that.
Well, broadly, but she was looking for a date.
We're targeting, what's next Tuesday, the next time we do a release?
5th.
The 5th.
Yeah, 5th.
But it's going to be the certification data discrepancies, so not the whole feature of data discrepancies, just the ones that are fatal causing that we're going to hold EOY hostage with.
All right. Yadira 312. With my CRSC 0468, I only have 10 of these errors, and they are from my middle school, and I feel that they are using the wrong state course code. They currently have them set to self-contained, but the seed attached to 5 of those errors has courses assigned like math and history. The 10 errors I have are for special ed students, and they have titled the classes SAI Math or SAI Support. I think I need Brandy's brain power. Help.
Okay. So what is 468? Oh, so we have there's a defect on that, but what is 468? Okay. So once again, let's see. All right, so it's invalid course group state and departmentalized standards grade level range. And just as an aside, Martha and Angela, this is one that we probably want to talk about. It doesn't make sense to trigger this error in end of year because we don't use any of the information.
Good point.
Yeah. So you guys are raising lots of really good points. So we're going to have to talk about, potentially disabling this one for end of year. Because
we would let the data in though. Because that's
we don't
what,
use it.
yeah.
I mean, I suppose if we let it in, I see what your point that you want it to be valid, but
yeah. Clean it up afterwards, even though we don't use it. Nah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so you're saying they're not self-contained classes, that it is for students with disabilities. So very likely they are self-contained. If the teachers
they currently have them as self-contained.
Right. And so if they're academic instruction for students with disabilities, if those teachers are teaching departmentalized subjects, meaning if they're providing math support or if they're providing math instruction specifically for those students with disabilities, then they should code those courses with that specific content area. And again, what you're trying to determine is what are the students getting credit for? So I'm assuming these are, you know, middle grade students, or they are middle grades, right? So what are they getting credit in? If it's math, then it should be a math course code. And there can be multiple sections tied to the same teacher. I don't know if that's making any sense.
All right. Well, if you need more help with that, please open a service desk ticket and we'll get it to Brandy.
Okie dokie.
All right, couple responses, Q2s, Q3. Okay, K at 3:20. If a SELA record for a pre-registered student, entry date 8/25/2022, has a SELA start date of June 16, 2022, will that record be pulled over into TOMS for the LPAC after July 1st, or do all the records, SELA, need to be changed to the 7/1/2022 date? I uploaded 1,085 SELA records with the date of 6/16 for pre-registered students to prepare for the initial LPAC.
All right.
We allowed it. We allowed it in, right?
So they took the LPAC in June, but they're not starting school until August.
They didn't take the LPAC. They're pre-registered, and so she put in a TBD starting on
Right.
June 16th.
TBD. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that should be fine. Although I'm really curious because they're not. Maybe this is what you were talking about, Angela. That you thought that the TBD dates could be before that. Because theoretically, yes, you can create a pre-enrollment, but you shouldn't be able to date your English language acquisition status record of TBD with a date prior to that until after July 1st.
You mean before that? Because June 16th is before 8/25.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. So if she created a June 16th TBD record, but has an enrollment in August, the system should not be allowing that right now. Is what I'm saying, based on our documentation.
Because we want that TBD to be in the same academic year of their enrollment.
No, it's not that. It's just the validation is that your TBD record has to overlap your enrollment, except in the months of June and July, or excuse me, July and August. Remember we were talking about this last week?
Yes. Yeah.
So, but if the system is behaving like that, so the answer to your question is, you were able to get the TBD record in there, and you created that pre-enrollment. Yes, they will be pulled over for TOMS when they start testing. It should be over there in July when they start administering the initial LPAC.
So that's the question with the TOMS extract, that we'll look at prior year. We'll look for that TBD record that has a start date in the prior year.
All we look for is the most recent English acquisition status record with a status of, if it's a status of TBD, has a primary language other than English, then that's what gets sent over to TOMS. But it sounds like Kay was able to get them in.
Yeah.
And that's not what our documentation said.
Okay.
Great, Kay. You broke the system.
No,
I blame you.
think it's okay. If you're able to get them in, yeah, that's great.
All right, moving on to 324. Stephanie, regarding STAS 318, I guess I don't understand the error. The non-ADA and ADA generating days equal the expected days. Expected days for my student is 20, non-ADA generating independent study days equals 1, and ADA generating independent study days equals 19. And on screen, Alex is highlighting the second point in the suggested resolution. Verify that the days attended in person count does not include days in attendance and school suspension collected separately. or non-ADA generating independent study days and ADA generating independent study days, as these are not considered attending school in person.
I think this is what was tripping up a lot of people, was because prior to this end of year, we were including in school suspensions and also ADA generating days in the days attended count. And because now they're their own separate ADA generating days is its own separate field, we're not asking you to include it in the days attended anymore, because it's going to inflate your counts. So it's not that the ADA generating days don't count as days attended, it's just that we're asking you not to include it in the days attended count total. And I believe your SIS is doing that automatically for you. But there were issues with the calculations, and so check with your SIS and make sure you have the latest version.
Thank you, Alex. Cedric, 325, we had a new student who was placed at an NPS site based on admin placement IEP, but the student only attended for a month, and therefore a follow-up IEP did not occur. This student is causing a CERT 144. How can we correct this error? Well, if they were admin placement with an IEP, were they enrolled at the 0000002 NPS school group, or were they enrolled at the district office? That'd be my first question. Because with an IEP, and my understanding of an admin placement goes to the district office, not to the 0000002 site. Joe, is that correct? If you're here, or Brandy, if you're here.
Yeah, it feels here. He can. I don't think that
Joe
he's
hasn't
here.
joined us yet.
Okay. So I think my question, Cedric, to you is, if the student was already on an active IEP and they moved to the NPS site, then if there was already a SPED record in the system for the student, should this even be occurring? If it was within the same district. Now, if it's an NPS site within a different district, then it just means that that district has to adopt the student's IEP that was in place when they were transferred to the NPS school. So I'm assuming you're getting it because, let's see, they were enrolled in the NPS, no SPED, oh, they were a brand new student. Okay. So they were placed in the, well, they had to have an active IEP to be placed in an NPS school. They had to have been evaluated. So I think I need a little bit more information on this one, Cedric.
All righty. Cedric, put in a ticket, please. K, 328, confirmed that the system did allow her to post those seller records, TBD records, and she promised not to break anything until at least June 30th. All right, Maria at 329, I received a message from our assessment team regarding a preschool student who showed up, or I guess that showed up in Tom's, enrolled, was no-show and had a TBD CELA. I have deleted the no-show enrollment and removed the CELA. When should we expect the system to sync?
I'm not sure I understand that question, because first of all, preschoolers will never and should never show up in the TOMS export because they're preschoolers. You're not eligible to take the initial LPAC until kindergarten. So now TK, that's a different story, right? So if at some point they were TK and then you created a TBD record for them, then that test registration record probably went over to TOMS. And then if you change the grade level to preschool, then what that effectively does is the enrollment stops going over there. And so ETS has a process that they run every 2 weeks to sort of clean up those test registration records that are invalid. And so in this case, that test registration record is probably now invalid if the student's grade level in CalPADS is preschool. And for those of you that have these questions about all the cleanup that ETS is doing, they're doing a lot of cleanup right now. They worked all last week on it. They're going to continue to work this week on cleaning up a lot of those test registrations for kids who look like they weren't tested and should have been. So they're still working on that. And this also, they're working on that every 2-week process of getting rid of test registrations that don't have associated enrollments anymore.
Perfect. Thank you, Brandy. Cedric did provide some clarification at 331 stating that they were enrolled at the NPS, and then a no, and no SPED record, they were a new student. So along our discussion lines, he did provide some answers.
Yeah, and my questions were based on those answers. So
Okay,
yeah,
making sure. 331, if a student has a school-related arrest with an incident action, what action authority code do we use? And we're looking up the available codes here. Hold on just a minute.
I don't think that's a required field. I believe this is only required for students with disabilities. That piece of data. Can we just make sure? Oh, okay. Let me see. Yeah, I was wrong. Oh, it is active SPED plan. Okay, yeah. So this is only for students with disabilities. So if it is a student with disabilities, but the other thing is they had to have also been either suspended or expelled. So Stephanie, if they weren't suspended or expelled, and it was just a school-related arrest, then this is not applicable.
Alrighty, got another Q2. Cedric will be opening a ticket. And I'm at the end of the list. So I'm going to head back up to the top and start hitting Q2s and above. And I'm going to start with Mary Masters Q2 at 302. Did I hear something about not being able to use hyphenated last names? I can't find any info about that. And I believe that was with regard to searching for students in online maintenance or trying to request an SSID in online maintenance, that if they have a space in their name, it doesn't return the correct results. And no bug exists on that on the known issues list as far as I know.
No, there was a bug.
Oh, there was a bug.
Yeah.
I just missed it. Okay,
Uh.
my mistake. I apologize. Oh, there we go. 4597 up on the screen right now. All right. Q1. Q2, Gita. Getting a lot of warnings for post-secondary students, Cert 99, no student course section data for a primary enrolled student, SCSE. How do I fix these?
So it's a warning. But the other thing that I would say is, I don't know what you mean by post-secondary. I don't know if you mean students with disabilities.
It's an EOY1 error. It is course enrollment data or course completion data.
Yeah, but I'm saying, is she talking about students with disabilities in transition, or is she talking about like kids that are in college, that are, because I'm assuming she means adults with disabilities in transition, but I'm not sure. So if it's a warning, and do we even have warnings?
We do.
Oh, the cert. Okay, because it's cert. Sorry.
She said yes at the end, 13 to 18.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So they're students with disabilities. Yeah. I mean, if they're not taking courses, then just ignore the warning. If they're just enrolled in transition services, the other option is to create a course section for them that's using the life skills course. But it's not necessary. They're not taking coursework for purposes of high school credit.
All right, thank you, Brandy. Lose Q2 at 311. What's the purpose of the CTE subpathway code since the CTE pathway field only allows 3 characters?
Well, the sub-pathways were developed because we have corresponding course codes that fall in those pathways. That's why they were developed. And it was just to help organize the course codes a little bit better. The sub-pathway code is not anything you guys submit. It's just something that provides our CTE office a little more information about what courses students are taking within a specific pathway. So, but the reason we've created the sub-pathways is because we actually created course codes that correspond to those sub-pathways.
All righty, Angelina, 312 Q2, do we have a state course code for courses that are credit recovery? I cannot find it in the documentation.
No. And that's, so Angelina, I'm kind of getting a pattern of why you guys are ending up with reporting these self-contained classes. So I saw someone say that Aries is actually extracting course code 1000 for purposes of CRSC. And I think I have a feeling that they're all probably credit recovery courses or these online courses that kids are taking. And you guys are reporting those as course code 1000 for purposes of fall 2, right? And that's perfectly acceptable for assignment monitoring purposes. But when it comes to course section completion, just reporting that a kid took and completed a course code 1000 doesn't mean anything in the context of course completion. We actually have to know the specific course that the student got credit for. So Angelina, if you have 50 students that took specific courses, for the end of year, we need to know the specific course content. So you would have to create sections representing that content for those students.
All righty, Melissa, 314, where can I find a list of full replacement files? If you go to the CALPADS system documentation page and scroll down to look for the CALPADS file specification documentation, there's 2 different versions. One is an Excel version, one is a Word version. If you go to the Word version, it's more verbose. And there's a section in there that talks about processing types and how they, the varying processing methods. And I believe that there's a grid in there. There it is. No, close. Keep going, keep going. Someplace in here, there's a grid that discusses all the file types. Oh, there we go. Maybe that's, there we go. If you go to the CFS Word document into section 1.3, CALPADS processing methods, this table exists to describe each file type and the type of processing is used. So there you go. Asya, how long does a snapshot take to refresh? And that depends. It can be as quick as just a few minutes, or it can take the better part of a day, and it depends on the load that's on the system. So if you come in on the weekend and you start loading files at 6 in the morning and you stop at 7, it's quite likely that you'll have a new revision by 7:30. But if you come in in the middle of the week and you start loading files at 7, 8 in the morning and then stop at about 9, you may not see a new refresh until the next day based on every other LEA in the state doing the exact same thing you're doing and putting a load onto the system. So it all depends. But as soon as you load relevant data into the system, your LEA will be flagged for a new revision. And it does require everybody to idle up so you can continue looking up information, but you can't edit, add, delete, anything, because that will bump you out of the queue and just takes longer to get the refresh.
And so, Paul, on my observation, I'm finding most LEAs are getting 1 to 2 revisions per day. We did have a problem last Tuesday after the deployment went in where a bunch of LEAs got stuck. And so they didn't get revisions for about 2 to, in some cases, extreme cases, 3 days. But that appears to have been fixed. So 1 to 2 a day is what we're averaging now.
Okay, thank you, Angela. Angelina, 319 Q3. Brandy, I have 4 courses that are credit recovery. They are all coded as 1000. Do I not need to report these courses?
You know, ideally, yeah, you want to report the content the student received credit in. So they didn't get credit for a self-contained course. They got credit for a specific content area. But the only way that you can report that is by submitting up a course section record that is representative of the content they received credit in. So it was algebra, you need to submit up an algebra section for that student. Again, it's just because of you chose to, and I think the FAQ that Alex is pointing to says you have a couple of options, and one of them is preferred, okay? So the preferred option is actually that you submit up the departmentalized area in fall 2. That way you don't have to worry about this. Okay? Option 1 is the preferred method, which is you select every single subject that students are going to take in that credit recovery course, and then report that specific section. That way, when end of year comes, you don't have to deal with this issue. But because you chose to report it as course code 1000, you know, the only way to not get this error is to not report those self-contained courses. And if you want to reflect the content that the student received credit in, then you need to submit up sections using the distinct course codes.
Thank you, Brandy. Moving on to Kim at 321 Q2. Just wondering if you are all doing okay. If it's tough for us, I can't imagine how tough it must be for you. Please hang in there. Kim, let me first say thank you. That's very touching for you to actually think of us. Now, how we're doing, you know, we're muddling through. But let me just say, think back to the movie Saving Private Ryan. You remember Tom Hanks' character when he's out in the field and everybody's saying, okay, I need a, you know, Captain, what do you really think about this? And he says, come on, you know, gripes go up the chain of command, not down. And it's, we're never going to lay our burden on your back. You know, you have quite enough to be working on out there and to be dealing with. And we're just trying to fight the good fight to make sure you can do that successfully. So we're hanging in there. But yeah, it's rough a couple days a week. All right, going down to 328, Betty Lee. I have tried various calculations to report stats with ADA generating independent study days. I keep getting errors. What is the correct algorithm to report? I am not new and I know math.
I think Alex kind of explained it pretty well, and she may have asked that question before Alex explained it.
But
yeah,
I mean, essentially what you want to do is you want to add all these fields should add up to the expected attendance days. And so that's why we're saying these 2 fields that are in red should not be included in your days attended when before they were, because then it's inflating this count, right? And so if all these fields match up to the expected attendance days and you're still getting an error, then send in a ticket, because then that's a bug. And I don't know, I think it was SAS 0318, but there are several errors that will trigger if the days aren't calculating correctly.
perfect. Thank you, Alex. Cedric, 330. Can we use a 2021-22 TBD start date like 6/27/22 for the initial LPAC testing window that opens July 1st? Our EL department would like to start testing as soon as the window opens, but I'm not sure if the TBD needs to be in the 22-23 school year. Will we have we will have the students enrolled in CalPADS in August. And I think Brandy talked about this, that so long as you got it into CalPADS, and it's sitting there with the TBD using a primary language other than English or sign language, it should get picked up next year. If that's what I heard from you, correct? Yes.
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, see, I was paying attention. 3:30, Betty Lee, I am not including the ADA generating independent study days in the days attended. I am still getting validation errors.
But if you want to put in attention, Alex, and I can take a look at some student examples. If you put the job ID, that would be great.
Perfect. 331, Angela Mata, Q2. Will ADA generating independent study days be added to the student absence summary container in online maintenance? I only see the non-ADA indicator or independent study days.
So it's not in the initial container when you open the modal, but or actually when you click open for that student's record, it is in that modal. It's just you don't see it initially when you use the little caret drop down. And I think it's a matter of real estate. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's just there's no room on that particular screen. But if you open up the modal for that particular student, it is there.
Okay. Maria, 333, they did show up in TOMS. According to the assessment team, I assumed it was due to the CELA TBD status, and I don't recall the question this was associated to.
When it's stated in June.
Ah, perfect. Thank you. Stephanie, 336, Q2, error sped 434. When trying to upload SACE transactions, student had an initial meeting type 10 and then an amendment to the initial. Aren't those both meeting type 10? Well, let's pull that error up here really quick. More than one part behind.
Yeah, that's the one I mentioned we're waiting on, and it's exactly that scenario. You'll get a SPED 434 when you try to amend your initial that came after a closed record. And actually on the 3 o'clock version, it said it's back to sent to developer.
All right. Gita at 338 responded and said, yes, students who do 13 to 18 or so here. And I don't recall, I think that was CTE related if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think Kyron had read this already, and I answered the question.
Okay, just making sure. Okay. That's Cedric. Okay. No. Mary Masters 341, not all credit recovery. We have special project classes for SH kids. This is regarding course code 1000 extracts from Aries.
Yeah, so if you have course code 1000 and for your SH, I'm not sure what SH means, but bottom line is if they are extracting 1000 for purposes of end of year 1, then you need to talk to Aries because they should not be extracting course code 1000 for end of year 1 reporting. They should only be doing that for for fall 2.
All right. Moving on to Mary Masters Q3 at 347. I'm wondering if the problem with the course code 1000 reporting is also new. It seems that last year we had no problem uploading the course 1000s. Was this because they were ignored by CalPADS? So now, if they're not being ignored, do our SIS vendors know?
Angela and Martha, I mean, this, as far as I know, this was an issue last year.
It was not. It was not.
And it's getting them in.
Did we change anything in that these are additional courses that they just started now reporting?
Because of the 0468 known issue, where the valid combo between the 1000 and null, or because the 1000 allows for any combination and it's triggering regardless for every 1000.
So if we had that fixed, those records would come in and we wouldn't be none the wiser.
Yeah.
So they really don't have to fix anything. They just need to wait for our fix. and then re-upload.
Unless the student actually got credit in something, right? I recognize that for self-contained courses, for general ed students, that they're not just taking a self-contained course, they're actually getting credit in something. So either they won't, I mean, once we fix this, you can go ahead and get them in, but they can't be used anything. And that's particularly
Right.
problematic if you need course information from some sort of course content that was taken during that self-contained course for purposes of CCI. So leadership, military science, what's the other one? Any of your CTE courses, for example.
And then college, dual college.
Yeah, college credit. But there was another one and I can't remember what it was.
Now, she is writing back right now, SH equals students with disabilities who are severely handicapped. So SH is severely handicapped. As to the ones that actually get credit, this is a huge issue to address in having to create sections for all of these single kid, single subjects.
Yes, I know. So one of the things that you should know is we recognize that our end of year one submission is not ideal because it is really a combination of section and transcript. And in the future, within the next couple of years, we will be redesigning the course submissions so that they are more of a reflection of your master course catalog, your section information, and then transcripts separately, right? And I think we talked about this in the quarterlies several months ago. So just know that that's coming, and I know that this is not ideal. Like I said, when it becomes important is when the specific individual courses will be used for purposes of calculating the career college indicator. And the career college indicator does look for leadership military science courses. It looks for college credit courses. So if you're reporting college credit courses under course code 1000, and it, I'm trying to think what else. Oh, and any of your CTE courses. So that's when it becomes important.
All right, with time ticking out, let's get on to Richard at 348, Q1. Still missing dates from SPRG ODS extract for Synergy import. Very frustrating. I've not been able to do programs for more than 2.5 months. And is it the academic year you're missing? The problem 6050?
The last two columns.
Oh, it's the last two
in the
columns. I got you. I got you. Okay. Do we have an ETA when those were being returned? I thought they were being repopulated.
I don't know. It's something we have to check in the backlog.
All right. Apologize for the inconvenience, Richard. Elsa 348, Q1, when trying to look at my CCEs for 22-23 in online maintenance, the results eventually show up, grayed out, and only for a few seconds, then they just disappear. Should that be happening? Yeah, I'm going to go with probably not. Yeah, we do know that there are some CCE display issues. And yeah, there's multiple tickets up on the screen right now. But I've not heard about them appearing and then disappearing. So that's a new twist to it.
They're timing out, especially for the larger LEAs. So I believe that's part of the fix going in for that one tomorrow.
Oh, good. Carol Mann, 352 Q2. A couple of our new students have TBDs from another district from more than a year ago, example 2019-20. Will we be able to test from that old TBD? If not, is there something we need to do to be able to test?
Most recent, Sella. And if that's the only one, we take it.
Yep.
Correct.
And then it's Mary's comments at the bottom. So we have reached the bottom of the question list at 3:59, which is about as perfect a timing as you could possibly hope for these things. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Hopefully you had some questions answered and that you enjoyed yourself, and we will see you again on Wednesday. And if you have a question between now and then, please open up a CalPADS service desk ticket so we can give you an answer quicker than Wednesday. And if we see you on the service desk or here or wherever we're at, looking forward to it. Have a good week.